Hello, my name is Rob Garner. I'm a computer programming instructor, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to address the PowerShell error you sometimes see in Visual Studio Code. So sometimes what happens is here we are. We have a virtual environment we've created in Visual Studio Code, or we have some task which requires us to execute a PowerShell command. So we create a terminal, and by default, when you install Visual Studio Code, the default is PowerShell. You actually have several different types of terminals you can create in PowerShell, but you might be doing something like this. So I'm going to try to activate my virtual environment, which I have here, and I'm trying to run this script here. And so I put in venv scripts activate, and really I'm running this script in a PowerShell terminal. And when I do that, I get this error. And it says, activate PS1 cannot be loaded because running scripts is disabled on this system. For information, see about. So when we do this activate command, it's going after this PowerShell script. PowerShell by default does not allow execution of scripts, not so much as a security issue or feature, but really just to protect the user against accidentally doing things to their computer. But if you're working in Visual Studio Code, you're a software developer and you need to be able to execute scripts. So how do you do that? Well, we need to change the execution policy, and we can't do that easily within Visual Studio Code. So what we do is we create a PowerShell. And so we want to run PowerShell, but we want to run as an administrator. So we run as administrator. The user account control window will come up asking you for permissions to run it and so that it can make changes to your device. And in here, we're going to execute this PowerShell command to set an execution policy. And that's located here. If you search for PowerShell set execution policy, it'll bring you to this documentation page. And in here you have actually an explanation of how you set execution policies, what the different ones are. The one we need is actually conveniently just right here. So we're going to set our execution policy to remote signed. So we can just copy that and execute it here. Set execution policy remote signed, scope local machine. Once we have that, we hit enter, and it's going to ask for confirmation. Do you know what you're doing? And we're going to say yes. And now what we can do is we need to close out Visual Studio Code, open it up again, and it brings us back. The nice thing about Visual Studio Code, it brings you back to where you were working before. It even restores your history, and you can just up arrow to your activate command, and now it works. And now we're in. And from here on out, you won't have to do this each time you run Visual Studio Code. Once you set the execution policy, that will stay that way on that local machine. I hope this helps. Thank you very much.